I've been contemplating starting this channel for a very long time. And if you're anything like me with ADHD, you know that you have all the ideas and all of the really good intentions, but not so much the follow through. So here I am putting myself out there, and I'm about to spend some time sharing my story and explaining to you why I'm doing this. I've decided to start this YouTube channel to share my story for others who might be struggling with the same sorts of things that I am, or who see the same benefits of having ADHD that I do, because I definitely don't see it as a negative all the time. I'm going to start at the beginning with my diagnosis. Interestingly enough, I was diagnosed with ADHD in my early 20s while I was still in university. It's interesting because back then we didn't have access to information the way that we do now. So I didn't really think very much of it. I was told that I had ADHD. There was no internet for me to go and look to see what that involved. There wasn't really a whole lot of information that I could use to sort of see how that had an impact on me. And to be quite honest, I didn't really take it very seriously. So once that diagnosis came, the doctor recommended a few books and workbooks that I could look at to learn a little bit about having ADHD. He recommended medication, which I was not necessarily comfortable taking at the time. So I kind of just went about my business. I got married, I had 3 kids, I became a teacher, and could never really quite put my finger on why that was such a struggle for me. There was always the commentary when I was younger in elementary school, oh, you're so capable, but you're just lazy. Or, oh, you have so much potential if you would just focus and try harder. And I kind of always put that on myself. I kind of said, well, I must be lazy and I must not be able to do things very well. And there must be something wrong with me because I have all this potential and I have all this ability and there's all these things that I want to do, but I can't get myself together enough to do them. Case in point, this YouTube channel, which I've been pondering doing for at least 2 years. I just couldn't get myself together to do it. And so I get stuck in the planning and I watch all of the videos about how to start a YouTube channel. And I have all these plans and intentions, and I could never really make it work. And of course, I'm jumping around. That's also a thing with the ADHD, but there we are. So after becoming a teacher, I got into special education after a few years of having been a teacher. It wasn't until I started learning more about teaching students who have ADHD or teaching students who have other kinds of special needs that I really started to think about what kind of an impact ADHD had on me. I know that as a teacher, I always struggled, and there was always comments about not getting my planning done correctly or in time, kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I struggled with getting marking done and getting that back to the students in a timely fashion. And I always see these teachers who are sort of using their prep and sitting down and getting their marking done. And I was always like, oh my God, I just can't. Like, I was overwhelmed. There was too many things going on in my brain, and I just didn't have a good system for how to make that work. And if I'm being honest, I kind of still don't. I have little strategies that I use, but I don't really have a good system yet. So in addition to all of that, I think being a teacher with ADHD, before I really contemplated what that looked like for me, there's also the issues in terms of colleagues and sometimes oversharing and sometimes putting up guards because I'm afraid of how people are going to receive me. And so people think I'm standoffish, being super impulsive in conversation so that, somebody's talking about something and all of a sudden it triggers something in my head where I'm like, oh my God, I have the same thing. And I try and jump in. And that jumping in starts to irritate people. And you can kind of see that people are irritated when you're in the conversation, but you're not really quite sure what to do about it in the moment. So I have all of these things happening within my teaching. And then there's the whole element of being a mom with ADHD. There's trying to keep your house in order, which seems completely impossible when you have ADHD. I have 3 kids, so managing the appointments and the schedules and the sports and getting dinner on the table, making sure there's clean sheets and making sure the laundry is done, like all of those things can be a really, really big struggle. And I know for me, they definitely were and really still are. So with all of that having been said, looking at my diagnosis, what I was experiencing as a mom, what I was experiencing as a teacher, and starting to learn a little bit about what it looked like to have ADHD in my students, I started to do a little bit of research now that there was more information available about how having ADHD impacts women, especially women who are in their adult years, and some strategies to manage it. I find that this can be a bit of a double edge though, because I am 100% able to hyper focus when I'm very interested in something. Unfortunately, that's not always the thing that I'm very interested in. So it wasn't that I would sit there and really research some of these things because I really just didn't have the interest level at that point. I did research enough to start to implement a few little strategies here and there. The difficulty was it's very hard to be consistent with strategies when you have ADHD because really it's an issue with consistency and doing things. So I would have great intentions and I would put a plan together and I would start and it would be going great, and then all of a sudden I would forget or I would stop, or however that goes. So taking all of that in a nutshell, there are a lot of challenges to having ADHD, being a mom and being a teacher. And there are definitely a lot of benefits too. I am a very out of the box thinker. I am very creative. I'm able to manage situations when there are sort of crisis problem solving type situations in the moment because I can process quickly and think about what I want to do to manage that particular situation. So I don't want this to come off as me thinking that ADHD or you thinking that ADHD is this thing that you're never going to be able to overcome because that's absolutely not true. So if I take a step back and really try to focus and explain the purpose of the channel and the reason I'm doing this is because I have experiences having ADHD, being a teacher, being a mom. In addition to that, I've just started a business where I create digital resources for special education teachers and sell them online. So I'm a teacherpreneur, entrepreneur, and I'm trying to do all of these things and I'm trying to manage all of these things. And I'm really cognizant of how the ADHD affects the way that I choose to do things and how I get things done or don't get things done. And so I thought, well, I wanted to start a YouTube channel anyway. Originally, it was going to have to do with how to teach special education and all the processes and resources and things to help special education teachers, which I know is not necessarily a bad topic because that's something that really we need a whole lot of information out there for. But what I've decided to do is share my journey as a woman, a mom, a teacher, teacherpreneur, and all the things with ADHD and what that looks like in reality. This is not going to be one of those channels where I show you only the good things and how well it's working and all the beautiful lists and productivity and plans that I've created, because realistically, that's just not true. It gets messy, it gets chaotic, it gets challenging, and there are a lot of emotions involved. I want you to know that you are not alone. It is not easy having ADHD and managing. However, it is entirely possible. And to be quite honest, a person with ADHD, in my mind, is extremely well suited to some aspects of teaching in the way that they're able to relate with the students, in the way that you're able to manage behaviors, in the way that you're able to bring life to lessons, because there's a different energy, there's a different way that I connect with students that my students have definitely responded to. So, as much as the administration side of teaching is really not suited to me having ADHD, there are so many things about teaching that are suited to me having ADHD. So, I want you to know that if you are contemplating becoming a teacher or any of those jobs where you're kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I'll be able to keep track of all of that stuff, you can do it. I think it's one of those things that you definitely can do, but it might require a little bit of effort in terms of the organization, which, again, not something I'm perfect with, but it's something I'm learning to put in place for myself in a way that works for me. Right now, I'm seeing all these videos and all this stuff because it's January and everyone's talking about setting goals and making plans for the year. And I've watched my fair share of those videos too. And I think what I've taken from all of it is that being a person with ADHD, my brain functions just a little bit differently. So the way that I do my plans has to be something that just works for me. It's not going to be something that works for everybody. And it's definitely not going to be the standard sort of way that people find that works for them. So if I can say anything at all, it is having ADHD to me is more of a benefit than a negative. You can do all of the things that you might be a little bit scared to do. And you really just have to learn who you are and how you function and what works for you to make all of these things happen. Understanding, of course, that it is going to be messy along the way. There's going to be struggle, emotions, all of those things. But at the end of the day, it's something that we can definitely get through. So to sum up, what you can expect from me and from this channel are my wins and my struggles, what life looks like with ADHD in a very realistic and honest way, insights into having ADHD and some things that I found that might work for me that you might be able to draw some inspiration from. I'm also creative, so I tend to use art or journaling as a way to manage some of the emotions and the overwhelm that comes with ADHD. So you might see a little bit of that. And also what it's like to be running a side hustle as a person with ADHD who's also working full time as a teacher and a busy mom of three. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and comment below. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you're interested in hearing about in terms of being a mom with ADHD, or being a teacher with ADHD, or being a side hustler with ADHD. I am really excited to put content out there that you want to see. And I'm really excited also to just be very open about my life with ADHD, my experience with ADHD, and my journey as I continue on being who I am. Thanks for watching. If you stayed with me up to this point, I'm really excited to start building this community with you. Bye for now.